Coming to you live from the basement of an abandoned training facility where we talk about fighting, training, and events. It's the Fight Mixer Show, where you can hear about all the local and world combat sports happenings. Get ready. It's time to gear up and square up because we're going live on the Fight Mixer Show.
What's up, what's up, what's up? All my bros and hoes in different area codes with swollen lip nodes and tiny chodes. Welcome to the first episode of Fight Mixer in 2022. I'm here with the black belt, the former UFC veteran, four-time world champion, Mr. Gabe. Gabe, how you doing, brother?
I'm well. We're missing Matt. It's sad that he decided he wanted to go to a Brony. Was it BronyCon? Is that where he's at?
Yeah, I think that. Yeah. It was a sausage packing convention. I don't know where he said he was
weird
going.
Convention. He'd rather do that than the podcast. But hey, to each their own. But it's 2022. We're here together. We're doing this. We're live doing it. So everything's good. How about you?
Oh, fuck yeah, man. Just doing the thing. Everyone in my family caught COVID. My fiance, and I proposed and she said yes. So she caught COVID. Literally 2 days when we got back, she caught COVID. So yep, thank you, sir.
Yeah,
thank you, sir. So we did it in Disney. Yep, did it in Disney. Oh boy. So fucking popped the question. She said yes. So fucking
Good
radical.
stuff, man. Happy for you.
Yeah, but she caught COVID 2 days later, so I couldn't celebrate Christmas, couldn't celebrate New Year's, and I'm sure she's watching this, and I love her very much. But, I had to miss out on the holidays, and my entire family, everyone's getting the Rona. So, I missed out on Christmas, missed out on New Year's, all that fun stuff. So.
I think it's inevitable. I think everyone's going to get it at some point or another. I think it's just people talk about like the new norm, and I think invariably everyone's going to get it. I know that there are people that are pro and against the vaccines, but I feel like if you get the vaccine, the chance of it being, deadly are far less.
Yep.
Yeah. But I also say I was talking to a good friend. I was talking to a good friend of mine about this earlier. I think we missed a really, really easy segue into a healthier America if the CDC would have talked about healthy living on top of vaccinations and everything else. You know what I mean?
Shout out to Mr. Goldberg, and thank you very much, sir. And looking forward to seeing him again and commentating with him again. So Gabe, I also want to congratulate you, and we're going to segue into our first topic that we want to talk about. You met the founder of Krav Maga, and he apparently has a death touch. So I want to congratulate you. We're going to talk about fake martial artists.
Yes.
And this is
fake martial artists. Actually, I'll go back to my story, but let me after meeting him, I went online, and the founder died, I think, in '98. But like everyone, I guarantee you, without question, if I were to bring that up to him, be like, well, my style of Krav Maga, which is different, and everyone's got their it's my Krav Maga, it's not. I'm the founder of my style of Krav Maga.
Right.
But so I take my beautiful 2-year-old to the park. It's a lovely day here in California. And we go to the swings and the slide, and I see a group of about 10 people doing block the punch, rake the eyes, foot sweep into wrist lock from the ground. And I'm like, what's going on over there? And let me I let her play for a little bit. Then I gather her in the stroller, and I meander over to sit and watch. And I'm very respectful. I'm not, I'm just sitting and watching and, listening to them. And
you got to be respectful towards the fake martial artists because there's a chance that they do have a depth touch like Steven Seagal, and they could kill you.
Always be prepared about the death touch. Always.
Yeah,
you never know.
But I love you, Gail. By the way, love you, Gail. Continue. Sorry.
So incidentally, this guy I used to teach is in the group, and he goes, "Oh, Professor Dave," and I'm like, "Oh, hey, what's going on? I know you're over here." And he goes, "Oh man, yeah, I want to come back to the gym, but life is this and that and this." And he said, "Let me introduce you to," and I can't remember the guy's name for the life of me. I think it was Jacob. I keep saying Jacob, but I could be wrong. And I'm not really. I hate saying, but I didn't really care. But he's 5'2", wearing heels, and he walks up to me, and he's older, and yeah. And I go, "Oh, nice to meet you." And I go, "So who did you train Krav Maga under?" And he gets mad, like, "What? What do you mean? I taught Krav Maga." I'm like, "Yeah, I understand you're the teacher here, but who did you learn your craft from?" And he goes, "I'm the founder of Krav Maga." And I'm like,
"The founder?
Oh. I apologize. I didn't realize that this was you, and and that's nice to meet you. Congratulations." And and then I the worst part of the whole thing is I'm sitting there, my daughter's in a stroller. She's 2. And one of his students walks up to my daughter and he gets right in her face and he's like, "Hey, maybe I'll go against you because all these other guys are way too tough for me." And I went, and I'm playing it cool. I'm not. I go, "Well, if you're gonna get to her, you got to go through me." And I guarantee you're not gonna get through me. And he kind of smiled and walked back to the group, and they went back to the park. And I took my daughter and I got on the Wikipedia. I'm like, "Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that's thought he was gonna, the guy told me he was 70 years old and Krav Maga was founded in 1910, but I don't know. Who knows?
Right. And to Alan Goldberg's point, we're going to bring up and talk about fake martial artists. We were actually, it was so intriguing that you brought this up, especially about confronting somebody that Krav Maga, the creator of Krav Maga, because fake martial artists, or I wouldn't want to say that. Because there's all different variations of styles. I mean, Carl Newman had Dragon Ball Z Jiu-Jitsu, and there's Thug Jiu-Jitsu with Dean Thomas, and modifications and people making it their own and stuff like that. But I'm talking about actual fake martial artists, like Frank Dux, who the great Alan Goldberg brought up. He was the I don't know if you're familiar with Frank Dux, but he was actually
Dukes. Put up your Dukes.
Oh, yeah. Put up your Dukes. And, apparently he was the subject matter of Bloodsport, and he's a guy that apparently went to a Kumite, an underground Mortal Kombat tournament, and first he was a CIA operative, okay? And I you guys got to follow this with me because I have trouble, following it myself. So he was a CIA operative. He was in Vietnam, which apparently he wasn't, but he was in Vietnam. He was a Marine, I think. He actually served in the Marines. And then he went to an underground Kumite, a Mortal Kombat tournament with his best buddy, who apparently was also in Revenge of the Nerds. He came out of college and then went with, you get the reference, right?
Yeah.
So, and apparently he survived 60 rounds, which 60 rounds of combat means you have to fight over 1 trillion people, more people on the planet. So he survived 1 trillion people to win 60 rounds of combat to win the Kumite. And apparently he has the fastest knockout in 0.1 seconds or 0.2 seconds, or I forget, but the fastest knockout of all time. And apparently, he slayed dragons. He's also ended World War II by himself. He went back in time. He ended World War II. Apparently.
On that first note, when's the last time you saw a dragon?
I'm not too sure, sir.
When's the last time you saw a dragon? Never. Never, because they're all gone thanks to Frank Dukes.
The dinosaurs, apparently he went way, way, way back in time and actually he killed all the dinosaurs, which we're thankful for Frank
Well,
Dukes.
you know what? For actually, I owned a school, and I had a guy come to do a blinds for the windows, and he was a Frank Dukes black belt.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I got a chance to talk to him a little bit about it, and I was like, please come on the mat and like teach me some stuff, and he was just like, that was a long time ago, and Frank Dukes had a school here in the Valley, and
Really?
some of my older students remember going to his school as a little kid, and I mean, he came from a time frame where you could lie about everything and people will believe you. I mean, I think it's crazy that there's still people out there. And I'm not saying the guy that I will say he was a liar about being the founder of Krav Maga that I met today, but it's very possible that he does his own style of Krav Maga. And I'm not saying what he was teaching. Well, I personally saw what he was teaching and thought it was very suspect, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't know something. You know what I mean? Yeah. But there was a time frame that you could pretty much tell people anything and they would believe it. But then again, I mean, I think you can still do that to an extent if you have enough firm believers in what you do.
Right. Know. And you are a legit black belt, Gabe. You are a legit fighter. You fought in the UFC. You're a 4-time world champion. So, like, as far as Bloodsport, I think Bloodsport's a classic movie. The producer of Bloodsport and the director, this is a true story. He actually talked to Frank Dukes. And he realized Frank Dukes was completely full of shit. But as he's talking to him, he said, wow, this would make a really, really good movie. And of course, he was right because it turned into a very, very good, one of the best martial art movies, probably next to Bruce Lee Enter the Dragon and The Last Dragon. But, that's.
I love
The Game of Death. Yeah, I loved from Bruce Lee. So, like, Bloodsport's right there. But as a legit martial artist, Gabe, like, is there any. Can you put any claims together from Frank Dukes as a martial artist?
Come on, son. Come on. I mean, I'm sure he knows something. I mean, I'm sure if you gave him a smoke bomb and a pencil, he'd be, pretty deadly. No, I mean, I'm sure against someone that doesn't know anything, I'm sure Frank Dukes would, would. And then I think that I think confidence is a big part of fighting. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I'm sure he probably is pretty boastful, but as far as real skill set. So let me say, I have been doing martial arts for 26, 27 years of my life, starting from traditional martial arts. And I have never seen anything that was superhuman, that was, one punch, one kill type of movements. And look, I still love movies and I still, Bloodsport. Now I will say this: Bloodsport. If you're to watch it now, it's a pile of stinky monkey dung. But I love it. That movie, it holds up so well for me. Yeah. My wife watched it and she's like, "You like this crap?" And I'm like, "You don't understand. This crap. Like when I was a little kid, this was like this crap got me going. And I was his first black belt." That's a little unknown fact that Alan keeps putting up there that I was Frank Dukes' first black belt. God, I wish. God, I would love to spend that much time with that man. I can only imagine how much bullshit you'd have to endure to get your first black belt under that guy.
I mean,
you'd probably have to believe a bunch of it. You know what I mean? Like to get to that level.
Right. I mean, I used to embellish my record. I mean, seriously, I was 13 years old. I was arguing with people on the MMA forums. I said, well, I'm a red belt when they were fighting with me and stuff. So just and then they said, no, only Gracies are red belts. And I'm like, oh yeah. So I was just saying that to make you intimidate me so I can get my point across. I knew stuff about martial arts. I mean, when I was 13, I did that. And also, I embellished my record to get fights because, this was back in the day where, you had to.
Yeah.
I mean, I did this when I was 18 and 13. I mean, shit happens. Maybe Frank Dukes. But apparently he was a Marine. They did a psychological evaluation on him. And they said that he was a little bit spacey. His ideas were a little bit out there. And he embellished a lot. Apparently when they did a psychological profile, because he was in the Marines. So there is a picture of him in the Marines. But he never served in Vietnam. He was never in the. No, I'm saying the guy Gabe is for real. Yeah, of course. Gabe is the man. That's my buddy.
I'm okay. I don't pretend to be a master of anything. I'm still a student in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
You know, but I also not the founder of jiu-jitsu. I'm founder of Gabe Godzilla Jiu-Jitsu, which is
Right.
I'm a 9th degree black belt in, and yeah.
When I was 13, I earned my red belt, by the way. So if anybody,
Damn,
yeah, I
badass.
mean, but
not to brag, but it's pretty
not
badass.
not to brag. But if I argue
Yeah.
with bigger kids on the forums, I'm a red belt, just in case anybody asks, you know. But yeah. So they did a psychological profile, and they realized his ideas were really, really out there, and it could be a brain tumor in there that could be causing this disengagement from reality. And I was actually reading more about it because I was trying to like research. Like when I read about people's profiles, I go, oh, sweet. But and then he started picking a fight with Don Wilson. Don Wilson is a former world champion, one of the Baz motherfuckers in kickboxing.
Yeah, like one of the original like American kickboxers. Yeah.
Yeah, and Frank Dukes was actually picking a fight with him. So like now like he had my sympathy. Now this guy can go fuck himself because Don Wilson is an absolute fucking legend. So like it blew my mind. And apparently Frank Dukes is not a nice guy either. I never met him personally, so
Yeah.
I love for somebody. I love to meet him and change my mind, but yeah, apparently he's not a nice guy either.
That was the sentiment from the worker that had worked in my gym. He was like, Frank is a really intense and can be not nice at times. And I can tell like him as a student, he was trying his very best to not talk poorly about him, but also kind of speak the truth at the same time. You know what I mean? It's like look, it's weird. The amount, I mean, ego is probably one of our biggest problems across the board. And I know it's caused me rifts throughout my life. But you get these super egos. Like I told you about, I had a close friend. I'm not going to say who he is. But when he first moved to LA, he was Steven Seagal's personal assistant.
Yeah.
I've told you the story.
Oh yeah. No, you have not. No, you have not.
And he said that every time, so they would go onto the road all the time. Well, one thing he said that Steven would only listen to his CD in the car. So like Steven Seagal only wants to listen to him playing guitar in his car, and that's all he listens to is himself. Yeah, only him. And then he was saying that whenever they would go to hotels, Steve would call and be like, "Hey, come to my room," and he would come to his room and he'd be like, "Take off my shoes." And then he's like, "What?" He's like, "You heard me. Take off my shoes." And then he took off his shoes, and then he go, "Okay, now go." Like, and just like he could take his own shoes off. It's not like he had a bad back or anything. He did it expressly as like a power play of like, you're my assistant. You're gonna do what I tell you to do. You're gonna come take my shoes off. Now be gone. You. He did it for about 3 months, and he's just like, "Fuck you," and left. But I mean, to give you this, the amount of arrogance of what an asshole. You know what I mean? Like you're now, admittedly, you are paying the guy, right? But
yeah.
You're not paying him for servitude. Like, take off my shoes. Like, and he said he would do it expressly as a power play. Like, fuck out of here.
Get the fuck out of here. And you know what? I'll do anything, especially the legends of the game. Like Steven Seagal, and I see the legends through rose-colored glasses. Like if Rickson Gracie says he's 300-0 and he won all by armbar, he's 300-0 and he won all by armbar. Like who am I to question Rickson Gracie? You know what I'm saying? Like, and like Steven Seagal is same thing. He's obviously he is a master of his craft. I forget the name of the martial art that he does. Aikido. Yeah. And who am I to question Steven Seagal? He says he's a master and he killed people and he taught Anderson Silva. Like I don't like to question the legends of the game. Frank Dukes, though, I could not. I did all my research to prove that this guy was actually like a real martial artist. Could not find anything. And the fact that he's a dick just made things a lot easier to be like, fuck him. He's not part of that clan or that elite group of people that helped build the sport. And like, Steven Seagal too. Like he taught Anderson Silva that death punch. I mean, that death kick.
Steven Seagal is still trying to have credibility. I mean, like, okay, here's the thing: is like there's two separate things. There's movies, and then hey, Justin, how you doing, man? Happy New Year. Anyway, and then there are real, people that put it on the line and are into mixed martial arts. Now, you can be in movies and still be a good martial artist, but that doesn't that doesn't mean that what happens in the movie is what's going to happen in real life. You know what I mean? Like look, and I had this former student of mine who's an aspiring actor, and he's like, "How would you handle this guy?" And I was like, "Well, are we talking about a movie? Or are we talking about in real life? In a movie, he's going to kick my ass all over the place, plus 30 other people, and it's not going to be an issue. In real life, he's an actor. I'm going to kick his ass."
Yeah.
Like, and you know, I think what happens, a lot of actors get deluded in believing their characters. You know what I mean? Like, if you're always playing the badass that kicks everybody ass, you're gonna be like, you know what? Yeah, I am kind of a badass, and like people are gonna treat him like that.
Yeah, Justin's definitely a badass. I agree. Justin's definitely a badass, Gabe. We got nothing on Justin.
There are exceptions to every rule, and Justin happens to be one of the rules.
He's one of the baddest motherfuckers of all
Yeah,
time.
I'm terrified. Terrified of him.
With my finger say in the face.
Yeah.
Slap. Yeah, five fingers of doom. Justin's a master of. So I wouldn't want to fuck with him.
I think what happens is you know, they probably get a little built up, like, and people look. If I would have met Steven Seagal when I was in my teens, I would have looked at him like a god. Like, oh my god, this guy could kill everybody. Like,
Oh
you
yeah.
know what I mean? Now, as an adult that have seen and been around, I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I mean, there was and I want to go on the subject of Bruce Lee, because Bruce Lee, obviously the godfather of martial arts. The first time I was at, like, I think the first exposure of American culture to what mixed martial arts would one day become would be in the beginning of Bruce Lee Enter the Dragon, where they're wearing the gloves and Bruce Lee won by tap out. And I think that, you know, he slipped that in of like kind of like the first glimpse or sneak preview of what mixed martial arts is. And I love that. I will always consider Bruce Lee to be the godfather of martial arts. I'll always hold him in high regard and see him through rose-colored glasses. I mean, if he roundhouse kick a dinosaur and somebody said that, I'm gonna hold to it, because, you know, Bruce Lee, I have an absolute respect. So there was a story though, and I'm trying to find out the name of the coach. He's obviously a legend. Judo Gene LaBelle. I just came back to me. But Judo Gene LaBelle actually fought with Bruce Lee. And I believe there was a story about that, and Judo Gene LaBelle handed him his ass. Is there any truth to that?
I don't know. Gene's got a bunch of stories. You know, Gene. Gene has been a staple of the Southern California mixed martial arts scene for a long time, and he has a lot of stories about. I think he's got stories with Steven Seagal actually.
Made him piss his pants.
I mean, Gene LaBelle's a tough, gritty old man, and I don't think he would be a liar. And I think let's go back to like UFC 1. You know what I mean? Like, if you had some grappling, and someone didn't know anything, you would be able to decimate them. And I don't think that, you know, Gene being a judo player probably could have thrown Bruce and, you know, armbarred him and probably made him open. And but the thing I will say, now you and I are different. I don't think he sits on this pedestal beyond everything, but I do feel he was the type of guy that if you beat him with something, he'd be like, I want to learn this. You know what I mean? Like I think that if Gene beat him, and we're just reading Justin's comments, which are amazing. I think that Bruce would have been like, I want to learn this. You know, he seems like that type of person.
And the first of exposure, and especially to what mixed martial arts would one day become. I mean, the first like real martial art fights. So like you can go back to Helio Gracie versus Takada, where Takada beat Helio Gracie, and that was actually in a boxing ring. Judo Gene LaBelle used to fucking choke the shit out of like boxers. He would have those mixed martial art fights. Judo Gene LaBelle was like, all right, you don't think I'm a tough guy? Come in here, you boxer. I'm gonna choke the shit out of you. I mean, Judo Gene LaBelle was that type of guy. And Bruce Lee, while he was very tough in movies, to your point, like there was a story that Judo Gene LaBelle either showed Bruce Lee or exposed him to the ground game or exposed him to the ground, or they sparred. Judo Gene LaBelle handed Bruce Lee his ass, and then he's like, all right, let me show you the ground game. And then great story with Judo Gene LaBelle and Steven Seagal. Steven Seagal was, pretty much saying, well, you couldn't choke me out. And Judo Gene LaBelle was like, yeah, so I got him in a chokehold and he tried to kick me right in the sisters. And like Judo Gene LaBelle is a raspy voice, and I love watching the YouTube videos of him telling stories. But I would never question a legend. I would never, rose-colored glasses, of course. And Judo Gene LaBelle, if he says it, it's gospel. So, who am I to question the GOAT, the man himself, Judo Gene LaBelle, who was actually also one of the coaches of Ronda Rousey during her reign of terror. So,
yeah, and he's actually a judge for the commission here in California.
What a legend, Judo Gene LaBelle, man. If I could shake that man's hand and just thank him, he was one of the godfathers, one of the guys who had first like MMA fights, like mixed fights. So onto other topics. Obviously, we talked about fake martial arts because you posted a funny stat, so we had to talk about it. So getting people up to speed right now. We had the Jake Paul fight I was attending. Obviously, my girl probably caught COVID at the Jake Paul fight. We were front row to watch my boy Anthony Taylor. Shout out to him. Obviously, I'm thankful that she didn't catch herpes, because Jake Paul fights, what I'm saying? Something's in the air, and, she caught COVID instead. Just kidding. I love the fight. So Jake Paul glitching the Matrix, knocking out fucking Tyron Woodley. What is going on, Gabe? What is going on?
You were there live, so I want to ask your opinion of it. One, I didn't watch it when it was happening, and two, I mean, obviously everyone was talking about it on social media, but I've seen multiple angles of it, and one angle in particular, Tyron's like this, and then he drops his hand, and that's when it's like his hands are here, then he just does this, and I don't know why he did it. I don't know what was like, if he was going for a sequence of punches or it's you were there. Give me your insight.
I thought it was a feeling out process, a very slow pace and methodical for the first few rounds. So I think both of them, it was kind of like a chess match. It was not, it was twice as, it was, to the casual viewer, it was boring, but I think Tyron Woodley and Jake Paul was a feeling out process. And they were just trying to pick their shots and time them. And I think Tyron Woodley, he was getting in the habit of dropping his hands and dropping his guard every time Jake Paul, and people were complaining that, he was signaling, to Tyron Woodley that was about to knock him out. But no, he was, this is kind of like thinking. You don't know if he's going to go for an uppercut. You don't know if he's going to go for a hook. When fighters do that, they're hinting at certain things. They're giving different looks to make people react a different way. So that's the reason why you saw Jake Paul. It was not a fixed knockout. Get that weak shit out of here. Educate yourself in the sport before you open your mouth. Please do not spend nonsense. Jake Paul, give credit to him. He earned this knockout. It was not a fixed fight. So anywho.
I will say that, again, I wasn't there. I saw the different angles, and I heard a lot of commentary about that. But, I mean, man, knocking out Tyron is impressive no matter what, even though it was just boxing. I mean, I sparred Tyron a couple times at Quest. He came through, and he's good, man. He's very, very good. And we just sparred standing, and he's solid. You know what I mean? It's like, so, I mean, there's no disputing that Jake Paul has got some hands, Now, I've heard they're trying to talk about doing MMA. I think, is it him or is his brother a former wrestler?
So both of them are former wrestlers. Logan Paul was probably the best out of the wrestlers. He actually placed in the States. He was a very competent wrestler. Jake Paul, not necessarily so much, but he was still a very good wrestler. But Jake Paul is talking about transferring over to mixed martial arts. And Jake Paul and Dana White were actually going at it on Twitter about fighter pay and about, Jake Paul's on steroids and everything like that. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's awesome. Now, I was just talking to someone the other day about how my biggest issue I have with Conor McGregor is with his name. He had the opportunity to put fighter pay and treatment in the forefront.
Yeah,
he could have done that for everybody, but instead he decided to just go on the me game. And the fact that Jake Paul is doing that, I commend him even more. I mean, you can talk about all you want, But here he's talking about stuff that many fighters have talked about, but because they don't have the name recognition, they're not getting it's not becoming news.
Yeah.
Right. Jake Paul talks about it, and it's on every feed, and people are actually talking about it. Like Mark Hunt was just talking about it. No ear, cauliflower in the ear. Everyone that's talked about fighter pay, that for whatever reason, people believe what Dana has to say. And I think that Jake Paul is standing up for it is commendable.
Right. So there's two sides to that coin. And obviously I agree with you that fighters, if I could, in a perfect world, if business made sense and it wouldn't completely kill an industry, every fighter should get $1 million because every fighter is a warrior and everybody that steps in that cage. But I'm completely pro fighter. So obviously, you've done it. I've done it. You've done it on a bigger stage than I ever will. And obviously, I just feel that, fighters, you're a warrior. Whether win or lose, you're a warrior when you step in that cage. And every fighter should get $1 million. But that's in the perfect world scenario. And obviously, that's just not realistic from a business standpoint. Both sides of the coin. One, I like that Jake Paul is defending fighter pay. He's not necessarily the vessel or the messenger that should be delivering that message, considering that he is fighting all MMA fighters, essentially to make MMA look inferior to boxing. So that's why his message is getting a little bit diluted. I think that's why his message is falling on deaf ears. He's a guy that's combating and saying, well, mixed martial arts suck at stand-up fighting, and let me bring them all in and beat them. So, but on the same token, too, I like the fact that somebody with such a big name is actually addressing the pink elephant in the room, that you have a promotion that makes $1 billion and that just raised, they had a record-breaking year during the pandemic, but yet fighters are still getting paid shit, and it costs a lot for a training camp, a decent training camp. This is, and Dana White's like, well, this is like a job. This is like a job. No, because these fighters are paying to work. They're paying for their nutrition, paying for their training camp, everything like this. This is not like a regular job, my friends. It's not the UFC paying for their training camp. They're paying them to show up on, by the way, independent contractor contracts, and they're not employees, so they don't have health care. I don't necessarily think Jake Vessel, he's both the right and the wrong vessel, just because based on his history and based on what he said previously, so it contradicts himself. But I like the fact that somebody that has such a popular name is bringing this up and bringing this message to the forefront.
Well, but how many MMA fighters want to fight Jake Paul because of the payday?
I mean,
like when Tyron Woodley goes, I'm making more for this one fight than I made for almost my entire career. That says something. You know what I mean? When you have all these fighters that I want to fight them, let me fight them. Why do they want to fight him? They don't. It's not about Jake Paul beating up Jake Paul. It's about getting paid, son. And if Jake Paul is going to pay you more than you're going to make in your prospective sport, there's a problem.
Right. But it also, his last fight too with Tyron Woodley, apparently they were reporting that the buys were. I had a blast. I thought every fight was fucking good, and I was nerve-wracking. I had a smile on my face the entire night. I was happy than a pig in shit. My boy did tremendous, even though it was in a losing effort to majority decision. He still put it down, put on a great performance, and I was so proud of him. But the buys were at 65,000. Now, what does this do to Jake Paul's brand, especially when when we were talking about fight negotiations and contracts? He just got 65,000 buys. And I actually had a conversation with somebody that actually works closely with media and marketing with Showtime. And he was like, well, Jake Paul's a problem. I'm like, I don't think it's the target demographic, and especially people in the crowd were the younger demographic, were the Jake Paul fans that watch him from YouTube. Now, the problem with this is people that are 13 to 18 years old, that demographic is used to instant gratification, everything for free. So those are, I guarantee if you look at all the data, that at least 1 million, 2 million people were illegally streaming that fight. And that's his target demographic. He's not attracting the boxing fans, the boxing purists. He's missing out on that demographic because he completely pigeonholed himself to being that, that YouTuber, that Instagram celebrity. So he's losing out on the crowds that are like boxing purists and boxing fans and aiming towards that, his fan base. And his fan base are used to illegal streaming and getting things for free and everything like that. So I think that's the reason why it was the numbers were so well. What are your thoughts, Gabe?
Now, real quick, if Showtime keeps doing it, regardless of the pay-per-view buys, they must see that there's a tangible value that may not come from the pay-per-view buys. And the way that things are moving now, where we have influencers as a job, and having just a name recognition might be more than enough to just keep it going. And again, if it wasn't making money, Showtime wouldn't be in it. Showtime would be like, we're not doing these anymore. It doesn't make any sense. But they've done multiple ones. So the pay-per-view could just be, I was just reading an article about how on the ESPN deal, the pay-per-view is 7 to 10% of the revenue they make a year.
Oh, wow.
7 to 10% is on the pay-per-view. So you got to think that, like, if not even 10%, 90% of your revenue is coming from other sources outside that the pay-per-view. The pay-per-view isn't the business model you're looking for. And I've been hearing that over and over again, that the pay-per-view model is dying. So if Showtime is still doing it no matter what, it doesn't matter if there's 65,000 buyers or not. If Showtime's like, we're going to keep doing this, they must see a larger model and a larger business proposition behind it.
Right. And I think, you have buddies and you have people that fight on these cards, and obviously it digs into their pockets when you steal the pay-per-view. So I'm against illegal streaming to the tits, considering that, you have buddies, you have people you care about that are actually fighting this card, and how they make money is from the pay-per-view buy. So obviously you're digging into my boys' pockets or digging into my friends' pockets when you're illegally streaming. So I'm completely against illegal streaming. But there is a way, I think personally, that there is a way that you can monetize this, especially when we're going towards a new type of business model, just like Napster. When Napster was free, all the music was free, everything like that. And finally, Apple Music made it work and actually, changed the entire music industry. There's a way to monetize it. I mean, as soon as you load up like a Facebook stream or you start streaming your television, Showtime bangs them. They recognize the symbols. There's ways through technology where you can actually monetize it, where they recognize that it's a fight, it recognizes it's a Showtime property, so you start monetizing it, adding commercials in there, just like how YouTube makes a revenue, adding commercials in there, adding like little ads or everything like that. So there's a way, I think, with illegal pirating that you can turn it into a healthy business model. Now that we're going towards that demographic where no one watches live TV anymore, everyone does illegal streaming and everything like that. There's a way to do it. I don't think they have figured out a way just yet or perfected the way, because there's certain ways you can get around it. But like changing the pitch of the audio or changing and switching over the inverting the image. But I think there's a way where you can turn a piracy into a liable business model. And commercials, I hate the radio. I hated it was so annoying. Like listening to commercials or people talking to a song, it was so annoying to the point, well, it's a free song, but it's also twice as annoying. I can't enjoy it, so I want to buy the song. I think it will also encourage people to buy the actual product, because commercials are just fucking annoying. That's why TiVo was a pretty good product when it came out. What do you think?
Well, but I mean, how many pay-per-views do you go? Like UFC is notorious for adding commercials to their pay-per-view.
Yeah.
You know how many movie previews I've watched on a UFC pay-per-view?
Yeah.
And how much they utilize that to then market their other fights that are on free TV and whatnot. So listen, there are people in the entertainment industry that are very, very savvy and that recognize where things are going to go. And again, if Showtime didn't see it as a viable product, it would be done. It'd be gone. So there's obviously some value to the Jake Paul pay-per-view. And I don't think the business model is based on the money from the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
How many were in attendance? How many people were in attendance? Out of curiosity.
It was pretty packed by pandemic standards. It was pretty packed. It was a pretty packed event, pretty packed show. We had a great time. Our section was awesome. I met Antonio Tarver, who's the nicest guy on the fucking planet. And I just thanked him. Like, you had an amazing career. You're awesome. The Island Boys came through and people were booing and throwing shit at them. As soon as they came in, they were booed to the heavens. I never heard a pop like that in a very long time. But me and my gal, we heard boo, like a splattering of boos, and we're like, what the fuck? And Island Boys came through, and we saw a fight go down, and it was just like, people were throwing balls at them, and apparently they walked out and they got into a big fight and shit. So it was a pretty wild crowd. It was a pretty awesome fight crowd, all things considered.
Crazy. I don't I don't know the new I feel older and older every day just because of how things are going and what people like and how I don't I guess I'm gonna just be sitting on my lawn or sitting on my porch telling kids to get off my lawn. I think that's gonna be my standard at this point.
Don't you wish sometimes I read the comments on Facebook and I read like celebrity boxing shit and I read like some of the fight fans like point of views like Jake Paul fight was fixed and everything like that. I wish I can go back to the days where 2001 2002 where the MMA community was as small as SureDog.com in the underground where you had to go through like hoops to tape trade and the fight demographic, the fight fans were very, very small community. Like some days, like I wish we can go back to where it was just an educated fan base, and during the time that you fought,
yes and no. I mean, I think that comes with anything with popularity. I mean, the more people you get involved, the more there's going to obviously the more opinions that are involved. But the thing, my biggest issue is with the popularity, the financial gain for the fighter should go up as well. You know what I mean? Like because of, I mean. I missed what we consider the dark ages of MMA. I kind of missed the fact that like it was so underground and people you met were in the scene. You never met anyone that was like that wasn't part of the scene. But it's so huge now and it's so mainstream that if it's going to be mainstream, you're going to deal with the mainstream problems that pro football players are going to have, pro baseball players and basketball players. Should be compensated. Now, admittedly, not. I don't think the sport should be. Well, maybe it should be. I don't know. Maybe the superstar should be making 150 million a fight. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the real numbers, but I mean, I was sitting watching the Rams beating the Niners earlier today. I'm not sure if they finished them off or not, but I think the league minimum is like $850,000 for the league minimum in the NFL. You know what I mean? And if you would have gone back 40 years ago, well, the league minimum was what, 25,000, 50,000, something like that. I don't know how far it was. Wow. You know what? It had to be much farther than that because my time frame, I didn't realize that 20 years ago was only 2000. But once again, I'm getting too old for this shit. But yeah, I mean, I look, people are always going to talk, and that's the unfortunate part. But look, like going back to the Island Boys, I bet they're making tons of money, of money, and you know how they're making it from people hating them.
Exactly.
The haters are making them more money than the people that actually like them. Now, I'm sure that there's a group of people that do like them, but I would probably say it's like a 90-10 split.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you that they didn't pay for their tickets to the show.
Nope.
I bet they had the best tickets in the house.
Neither did I, but I know people, and people like me. I have no idea why. I haven't figured it out why, but like people like me. I have no idea.
You're a likable guy. You're a likable guy. But again, so I don't know. What do I know?
All right, so we're going to wrap up the show like a Christmas present. Obviously, we're back in 2022, and we're going to be more consistent. And obviously, consistency is key. And we're going to be back for next Sunday. But this show is brought to you by Kajuja/MMA and Fitness. If you want to train with a 4-time world champion, UFC veteran, black belt, slayer of all dragons, and responsible for the extinction of dinosaurs, go to 18851 Ventura Boulevard, Tarzana, California, to Kajuja MMA and Fitness and train with Gabe Rudiger. Obviously, train with Godzilla, our co-host of the show with the most. And guess what? Free class, first class is going to be for free.
On me. I got you.
On you.
I got you.
No pun intended. But obviously, if you want to train with a black belt and 4-time world champion, go to Tarzana, California, and train at Kajuja MMA and Fitness, and go on their website to book your first appointment and train with this bad motherfucker. Also, DrangerNutrition.com. Pick up some supplements. If you didn't do it during Christmas, I forgive you. But if you want some great nutrition products, go to DrangerNutrition.com and pick up some product today. You know why Gabe's so jacked right now? Not because of Dranger Nutrition, but we still want those supplements, baby. Got to order them. Go on DrangerNutrition.com for some supplements. So, Mr. Gabe, wrapping up the show like a Christmas present. Any final words from the GOAT himself?
I just want some consistency in 2022. Hope we get back to it and doing it, and I'm happy to be back.
Talk to our producer, Matt. We'll be consistent. Right now, he's in Disney right now, but we miss him, and he'll be back for the next show. So, obviously, last words from me. I hope everybody had a happy Christmas. Obviously, my girl got the Rona, and my family got the Rona, so I hope they're feeling better, and I love them very much. And my gal, I proposed to her in Disney, so obviously, thanks again. And also join us at the end of the month. I'm going to be inducted to the Hall of Honors for contributing. Man, I can't even pronounce my words. Contributions to the sport. So I'll be inducted to the Hall of Honors, and it's going to be a great weekend where, you know, we have the red carpet for Michael J. White's new movie. So I can't wait to meet him. Dan Severn's going to be in attendance, who was on our show, and a lot of the legends of the game. And it's going to be a great weekend. So obviously join us for the Martial Art Expo, Mega Expo at the end of the month, and big fights coming up too, and awesome sauce. And Gabe, any events happening at the gym or any events happening with you?
I mean, you know, we're starting 22 strong. Got a bunch of tournaments happening. Some of my fighters are going to get back into doing pro and AMI stuff. Nothing too exciting, but we're excited that 2022 is going to be a good, strong year. So back to the grind, doing 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day, doing it.
If you want to train, this is the man to train with, ladies and gentlemen.
Just do it. I mean, I'm there. I'm already there. Might as well come in and train too.
Just saying. Everyone that trains at Kaiju is bad motherfuckers. This guy,
I got some bad mofos. That is a fact, my friend.
Absolutely.
Bad man.
So, boys and girls, children of all ages, thank you very much for joining us for this edition of the Fight Mixer. We'll see you next weekend. Peace.
Perfect. Coming to you live from the basement of an abandoned training facility where we talk about fighting, training, and events. It's the Fight Mixer Show, where you can hear about all the local and world combat sports happenings. Get ready. It's time to gear up and square up because we're going live on the Fight Mixer Show.